Another subtitle in this session is lexical collocation. Collocation means two words which comes together for mistake in English we use make a mistake and we call them as collocation. Or for friend we say that make a friend instead of find a friend, and we call that as collocation. Collocation means two words which come together. Method of collocation on words helps to understand the role and position of word in a text. Methods of collocation on words help to understand the role and the position of the words in the text. Our traditional linguistic descriptions and hypotheses are challenged by new evidences accumulated from corpus through collocation. Recent work on lexicography. Lexicography is one of the common process in corpus linguistic. Recent work on lexicography on 1998 shows that for many common words, the most frequent meaning is not the one that first comes to our mind and that takes place in dictionaries. Okay. The most frequent meaning is not the one that first comes to our mind and that take place in dictionaries. Thus, it helps to determine which pairs of words have substantial collocational relationship between themselves. Okay, this is necessary to know the collocation of words. It compares the probabilities of two words occurring together as an event with the probability that they are simply the result of chance. Okay, it is the definition of collocation. It compares the probability of two words occurring together as an event with the probability that they are simply the result of chance. For each pair of words, which we call them collocation, a score is given. Okay, in corpus linguistics, we give a score to a pair of words. The higher is the score of the greater is the collocational ability of the words. Okay, we compare them in this way, that the higher is the score, the greater is the collocational ability of the words. It enables to extract multi-word units from a corpus to use in lexicography and technical translation. It also helps to group similar words together to identify sense variation. For example, riverbank means landscape, but invest in bank means financial use. It helps in discriminating differences in usage between the words, which are similar in meaning. For instance, strong, I think I explained it in the previous session. Okay, I just review it again. We use strong as a collocation of mother real, showing, believer, current, supporter, other, etc. While powerful collocates with tool, minority, neighbor, symbol, figure, weapon, and past. Such information about delicate differences in collocation between the two similar words has an important role in helping students to learn a language in a better way. The information about collocations of various linguistic items like words, moves, idioms is important for dictionary writing. NLP works and machine translation besides language education. However, it is not easy to determine which co-occurrence is a significant collocation, especially if one is not a native speaker of a language or language variety. Keywords in context, which we abbreviate it as KWIC. Keywords in context. KWIC, which is abbreviated form of keyword in context, is widely used in corpus processing to look up each occurrence of particular words, similar to concordance. Okay, this is used in corpus processing to look up each occurrence of particular words. The word under investigation appears at the center of each line. Okay, the word under investigation appears at the center of each line, with extra space on both sides. This is the feature. This is the structural and formal feature of keywords. They appear at the center of each line, with extra space on both sides. The length of the context may be different for different purposes. It shows an environment of 2, 3, or 4 words on either side of word at the center. This pattern may vary according to one's need. At the time of analysis of words, phrases, and clauses, it is agreed that additional context is needed for better understanding. It is better to think KWIC as a text in itself and examine a frequency of word in the environment of the central word. It is not that all information is needed every time, but we utilize information when we require. After analyzing a corpus by KWIC, we can formulate various objectives, a linguistic description, and device procedures for parsing these objectives. KWIC help to understand the importance of context, rule of associative words, actual behavior of words in context, actual environment of occurrence, and if any contextual restriction is present in the use of a word. For instance, KWIC on the Bank of English shows that the most frequently used verb in reflexive form is find, followed by see, show, present, manifest, and consider, all of which involve viewing of a presentation or proposition. But what about the local word grouping, or LWJ, local word grouping? LWJ is another type of text analysis or corpus processing. Okay, it is another type of text analysis. Therefore, it is one way to analyze the corpus, which throw light on the patterns of use of group of words in the text. Okay, LWJ is one of the text analyzing advice in corpus processing, which focus on the patterns of use of a group of words in a text. It is useful where word order is important for determining semantic load of sentences, and where individual semantic load of a constituent is affected for the presence of another constituent. If it provides information for dealing with the functional behavior of a constituent at the time of parsing, both in phrase and sentence level. LWJ on the B and C, which is one kind of corpus, shows that verb manifest is mostly associated with the third person neuter reflexive, whereas enjoy occurs with all reflexive form except neuter. It determines that distribution of verb forms like amuse oneself, please oneself, lend oneself, remind oneself, which are not very common in use but which have a special affinity for reflexive forms. Knowledge of such patterns is important in moving language learners from intermediate to more advanced level of proficiency. Using LWJ, we find that most of the non-finite verbs are followed by finite verbs, while none are mostly preceded by one or two adjectives and followed by suffixes and postpositions in Bengali. It helps to analyze the so-called verb groups and noun groups from their local information in case of a language like Hindi. It provides clues for understanding the rules in phrases, clauses, and sentences. Information from LWJ helps to dissolve a lexical ambiguity, which arises from the local association of various lexical items. My experience with the Bengali corpus shows that finer shades of meaning are mostly conveyed by internal relation between the constituent along with their distributions in context. For many compound nouns and verbs, meaning denoted by particular association of word cannot be obtained from meaning of individual words. Okay, and that was one way to analyzing corpus. Another matter is morphological processing. Morphological processing involves automatic analysis of words used in corpus. It includes processing of single word units, double word units, multi-word units. The main objective is to identify a word in a piece of text, isolate it from its contextual environment, because we are dealing with morphological analysis. Analyze its morphemic structure, obtain its original meaning, and define its syntactic role it plays in a text. Information obtained from word processing is valuable of word sense in disambiguation, dictionary complication, parsing, language learning, etc. There are several word processors for English and other languages. Okay. One of them is okay. For processing Bengali words, we used a directed analytic graph based approach, tri-structure based approach, GS-MOV approach. The tri-structure based approach is orthography based to follow a conventional spelling system. It uses no phonological rules. Linguistic knowledge behind it is simple, and implementation algorithm is straightforward that requires little programming skill. An example from Bengali is here. Okay, in the surface form we have ballet chialum. Okay, they are Bengali words. Word class is finite verb. Root part is bell. Suffix part are lam. Aspect marker is this a. Particle marker is e, which is emphatic. Auxiliary marker is che. Tense marker is il. It refers to past. Person marker is double am, which is first person. Honorific marker is null. Number marker is null. and meaning is I will had, I or we had said. People working on native language can have better results since intuitive knowledge helps in finding out a right root or suffix part from the inflected word, which may be beyond the grasp of non-native users. But part of speech tagging, one of the important matter in corpus is tagging of the data. In creating a purpose, we should tag data. But how we tag the parts of speech? Certain types of linguistic annotation, which involve attachment of special codes to words in order to indicate particular features, are often known as tagging rather than annotating. Codes which are assigned to the features are known as tags. Okay, I will repeat it again. Certain types of linguistic annotation. Certain type of linguistic annotation which involve attachment of special codes to words in order to indicate particular features are often known as tagging rather than annotation, which are assigned to the features are known as tags. The part of speech tagging scheme tag a word with a part of speech is used in a sentence. It is done at 3 stages. Okay, we do the part of speech tagging in 3 stages. Number 1 or A, pre-editing. B, automatic tag assignment. C, manual post-editing. In pre-editing stage, corpus is converted to a suitable format to assign a part of speech tag to each word or word combination. Because of our graphic similarity, one word may have several possible or POS tags. After initial assignment of possible POS, words are manually corrected to disambiguate words in context. For Bengali, I suggest the following tag set for the word belonging to major lexical classes. Okay, here you can see some example of tag. For noun, we have double N. For pronoun, we have PN. For adjective, we have AD. Finite verb, we have FB. For adverb, we have ADV. For non-finite verb, we have NFV. For post position, we use PP, and in declinable, we use ND, and for reduplication, we use RDP. Here we can see some example of paraspeech tagging in Bengali corpus. The second level of POS tagging is called grammatical tagging. Okay, another tagging for POS is grammatical tagging. It is a more comprehensive annotation system which assigns all grammatical information to each word in corpus. The scheme is used to distinguish the inflected words necessary for skeleton parsing. To solve the problems related to morphological, lexical, semantic, and syntactic analysis, we urgently need a corpus which includes grammatical information for each word occurring in the text. But what about the word sense tagging? Word sense tagging or semantic tagging accepts word as input text, which is tagged with POS and grammatical tagging. After automatic tag assignment are over, manual post-editing is done to ensure that each word carries correct semantic classification. Following example of the word sense tagging is taken from a project at Lancaster University, UK. PPIS1, which means I, which is Z8. VVO, VV0, which is like, which we mark it in this way. 81, which is A, which is Z5. It is one kind of word sense tagging. JJ is particular in this by this sign, and N1 is shade, IO is off, and N1 is lipstick. In this table here, the text is read downward with grammatical tags on the left. Here we have the grammatical tags and the word sense tags on the right. It is the word sense tag. Okay, it is the grammatical tag. Here is grammatical tag, and here is the word sense tag. Semantic tags are composed of an uppercase letter indicating general discourse field. Okay, semantic tags are composed of an uppercase. Here we have uppercase, which indicates general discourse field. Here we have the general discourse field. A digit indicating a first subdivision of the field, decimal point followed by a further digit to indicate a finer subdivision. One or more pluses or minutes to indicate a positive or negative position on a semantic scale. For example, A42 plus, A4.2 plus indicates, which is a word sense tag, indicates a word in category, which is general and abstract words. Indicate a word in category, general and abstract words, which is A. Subcategory classification is A4. Subcategory particular and general is A4.5. And particular as opposed to general, which is A4.2 plus. Likewise, E2 plus belong to category emotional states, action, event, and process. E, subcategory liking and disliking, which is E2. We have two alternative and refer to linking rather than dislinking, which is here we have two feature, which is E2 plus. Result of tagging. After completing tagging on a small Bengali corpus, I have found three types of words: rightly tagged words, ambiguously tagged words, and untagged words. Rightly tagged words. Most of the PNS, NFV, FV, INDS, inflected NNS, ADVS, and ADGS are rightly tagged. Indeclinable are tagged with string matching. Most of the PNS and NNS are rightly tagged since a root lexicon contains root and suffix lexicon contains suffixes. Moreover, algorithms between root and suffix are agreed. Most FVS and NFVS are tagged rightly because root lexicon contain root and suffix lexicon contain suffixes. Moreover, algorithms between root and suffix are agreed. Some ADJS and ADVS followed in the same way. But what about untagged words? Some words in the corpus are not tagged at all. Some FVS and NFVS are not tagged because root lexicon does not have the root forms. For NNS, PNS, and ADJS, either the suffix list is not exhaustive and the root part has failed to match with the root form stored in the root lexicon. For indeclinable, the insufficiency in the lexicon dictionary. For ADVS, failure is caused for the space in between words. Moreover, insufficiency in the list of adverbial root and suffix lexicon is also a reason. Some NNS are used as FVS in text. Proper names, transliterated foreign words, dialectal forms are mostly untagged due to their absence in root lexicon. These are mostly technical problems which can be removed by augmentation of respective root and suffix lexicon and modification of the matching algorithm. About the ambiguously tagged words, ambiguity at lexical level is quite common in all natural languages. A single lexical item can convey multiple items, sense, events, and ideas depending on the context of its uses. Efficiency and adequacy of a word processor comes from the way it handles lexical ambiguities. At POS means part of speech tagging, ambiguity nearly takes place at the lexical level. Lexical ambiguity is caused because most of lexical items like FVN, NNS, ADJS, etc. allows more than one reading or sense variation. These readings differ in terms of subcategorization features, selectional features, syntactic properties, semantic property, idiomatic reading, figurative use, and so on. After POS tagging, the Bengali corpus gives two types of ambiguity. Structural ambiguity, which is caused mostly for non-inflected words, like mat means opinion, mat means like. Call means rise, and call means move. Another example, where root is homographic in form to belong to different lexical categories. Structural ambiguity is also noted in some inflected words, like karo means having done, kare means in hand, kare, both of them are the same. Bell means having set, and bell means on the ball. Karate means to make other to do, karate means in so. Due to similarity both in root and suffix part, at the level of context-dependent parsing, such ambiguities can be dissolved. Sequential ambiguity is mostly caused due to the presence of immediately following words like W2, which is processed with the processing word W1, produce a meaning which is different from their respective independent meaning. For instance, if vicious and hobby are processed in isolation, vicious means specific, while hobby means she sings. However, if these are processed together, they will mean special, which is grossly different from their respective individual and independent meaning. To resolve a sequential ambiguity, it is better to apply the method of delayed processing based on KWIC or LWG. Another words which are very concerned with computational linguistics is Limitization. Please pay attention to these words and terms because they are strongly related to corpus linguistic and Limitization. The process of Limitization is related to identification of inflected words used in a piece of text and reducing to their respective lexemes or lemma form. Okay, the process of Limitization is related to identification of inflected words used in a piece of text and reducing to the respective lexemes or lemma form. It allows researchers to extract and examine all the variants of particular lemma without having to input all the possible variants and to produce frequency and distribution information for the lemma. It is useful for language teaching where the learners are trained to identify the total number of surface forms of a lemma. It is used to know which are inflected, how many times these are inflected, and in which way these are inflected, and so on. A part of brown corpus contains the lemmatized forms of words along with all lexical and grammatical information. No Indian language corpus has been input to Limitization as yet. Another is annotation. Apart from pure text, corpus is provided with additional linguistic information known as annotation. Okay. Corpus is provided with additional linguistic information, which we call them as annotation. Information is of different nature, such as part of speech, prosodic, semantic, anaphoric, discursive annotation. Annotated corpus is a very useful tool for research. Grammatically tagged corpus is the most common form of annotated corpus where words are assigning a word class. The brown corpus, LOB corpus, and BNC are grammatically annotated. Please pay attention to this example. Brown corpus, LOB corpus, and BNC are grammatically annotated. The LLC is prosodically annotated, while the Susan corpus is syntactically annotated. We are yet to start the work of annotation on the Indian language corpora. Another matter is part of speech annotation. In part of speech annotation, the aim is to assign to each lexical unit in the text a code indicating its part of speech. It increases specifically of data retrieved from corpus and helps in syntactic parsing and semantic field annotation. It allows us to distinguish between the homograph. Another one is anaphoric annotation. We have different kind of annotation, which was the part of speech annotation, and it is anaphoric annotation. In an anaphoric annotation scheme, all pronouns and noun phrases are co-indexed. Because we are dealing with anaphoric, therefore we have noun and noun phrases within a broad framework of cohesion. In an anaphoric annotation scheme, all pronouns and noun phrases are co-indexed within a broad framework of cohesion. Here, different types of anaphora are listed and sorted. Such an annotation scheme is used for studying and testing mechanisms like pronoun resolution. It is important for text understand and machine translated. Okay, it is important. Okay, the anaphoric annotation is important for text understanding and machine translation. Another way of annotation is prosodic annotation. In prosodic annotation, the patterns of annotation, stress and pauses in speech are indicated. Okay, in prosodic, which is deal with prosodic feature like annotation, stress and pauses are annotated in prosodic annotation. It is a more difficult type of annotation because prosody is considerably more impressionistic in natural than other linguistic levels. It requires careful listening by a trained ear. The Lancaster or IBM spoken English corpus is a prosodically annotated corpus where stressed syllables with and without independent pitch movement are marked with different symbols. All unstressed syllables whose pitch is predictable from tone marks of surrounding accented syllables are left unmarked. Another one is semantic annotation. Their names denote their content for each terms. In semantic annotation, either the semantic features of word in a text, essentially annotation of the word sense, or semantic relationship between the words in a text, like agent or patient or of particular actions are marked. There is no unanimously agreed norm about which semantic features ought to be annotated. Some people propose to use Roget's thesaurus, where words are organized into general semantic categories. Such annotation scheme is designed to apply to both open class, means content words, and closed class of words, which are grammatical words, as well as proper noun, which are marked by a tag and set aside from statistical analysis. Discoursal annotation. In discoursal annotation, a corpus is annotated at the levels of text and discourse. It is used in linguistic analysis. Despite its potential role in analysis of discourse, this kind of annotation has never been widely used, possibly because linguistic categories are context dependent and their identification in text is greater source of dispute than other forms of linguistic phenomena. Some have annotated the London spoken corpus with 16 discourse tags to observe trend in teenage type. Another matter is parsing, which I don't want to explain it. Okay, this is enough to parsing. I will continue this article in future sessions with the matter of parsing. Okay, in session 4 and 5 we continue the matter of corpus, which I will review them in details in session 6. Here I just refer to the subtitle and title to remind you of that matter, and I will review them in brief. I will review them in details at session 6. Okay, in the session 4 we discussed about the selection of time span, which we told you that the period of time is important in creating and generating a corpus, because our language change during time, and we deal with time for a language, and therefore determining the time span is very important to doing and generating a corpus. Selection of text type, we should use all kind of text, written text, like books, newspaper, magazine, journals, and our data should comes from all part of knowledge. We shouldn't pay attention to just special knowledge. Another matter is method of data sampling. We introduce you some method to data sampling, and we give you an example for each of them. One method of data input, which we told you that our input for data is electronic source, like the electronic form of newspapers, journal, magazines, books, and which exist in the electronic form. Another is data from the websites, which includes text from web pages, websites, and pages. Another one is data from emails, which contains electronic typewriting emails. And another is matching reading of text, which converts printed text into matching readable form by way of optical character recognition system. Using this method, printed materials are quickly entered into a corpus. Another is manual data input, which is done through typing text in computer. This is the best means for data collection from handwritten materials, transcription of spoken text, and old manuscript. The process of data input is indirectly based on the method of text sampling, which we refer to these matters in previous session, and I will review them in details in session 6. Here I just in brief I want to point to that title to remind you of that matter. Please, when I introduce you a title again, pay attention to their content and remind them to better understanding and to remembering it. Another matter and title was hardware requirement, which we introduce you some hardware for data for corpus, management of data files. Another matter was corpus annotation or corpus text editing, which it contains these subparts: emission of character, editing of character, repetition of character, substitution of character, and transposition of character. Another title was problem of copyright, and we told you some and we give you some information about that. Corpus processing, which we used some ways and method to processing corpus. Another one was frequent recount, word sorting. Pay attention to the content of word sorting. After the reading and looking at the teaching of session 4 and 5, at the end of this session, you can remember the matters and content of that title in the previous session. Another one was concordance, which was deal with the indexes. Another one was lexical collocation, which was the matter of this session. We introduced the collocation keyword in context, which is one method in analyzing corpus. LWG, which is local word grouping, which is another way of corpus analyzing. Morphological processing, which was deal with the words, because it is a morphology. And another one was part of a speech tagging, word sense tagging and their abbreviation form resulted of tagging, which the word can be a rightly tagged word or untagged word, ambiguously tagged words. Another matter was Limitization, which we defined the lemma for you and their features. Annotation, which was the part of speech annotation, and anaphoric annotation, and prosodic annotation, semantic and discourse annotation. We explained this session. We just introduced and review the title of session 4 and 5, and I will review them in details. I give you the important point in session 6. Please read them and ask any question through the WhatsApp group. Thanks.